Yeah, of course. Thank you for the time, man. Hello, everybody. Yeah, a couple of updates and comments. Up to I will start Meds to Bed. So Meds to Bed is one of those programs that the hospital really wants for us to have down and using on for discharges and so on. It's worked well so far. There's been a couple of areas of improvement and so on. One of them was making sure that we getting a hold of the patient was hard. So we installed phones in every single room so that we can actually talk to the patient via the phone room. Besides that, the process itself that we've been talking about, we're going to be making some changes to add the meds to bed process to the admission workflow. I believe it's going to be through some type of what would be the right terminology, Keenan?
There's going to be a question string that we're going to get added into the actual admission assessment. So not in the nursing shift assessment, in the actual admission assessment. There will be some questions in there. Our goal with that question string is to trigger a notification over to the pharmacy team. And this is so that we can get a jump start on the meds to beds process starting at the day of admission. So one of the challenges that we seem to be running into with meds to beds is the process isn't initiating until the day that the patient is discharging. And what we're seeing happen is we're running into complications with the patient not having updated insurance. We're running into complications with the patient not having a credit card or cash available to pay for the meds upon delivery of the medications. Things of that nature is
Yeah.
what we're running into. So by getting this notification early, adding a question string into the admission assessment, basically asking the patient, are you interested in the meds to beds program that we have to offer? If the patient indicates yes or maybe, then it will trigger a notification over to the pharmacy team on day of admission. So that way the pharmacy team knows early on, hey, these 5 patients that are, admitted on XYZ day are interested in meds to beds. Pharmacy can start spinning up, getting insurance information updated, making sure that they notify the patient that there's potential for copay and that they need to have something squared away in order to pay for said medications. That way, come discharge day, getting the preferred pharmacy updated is another big one. So, Mendoza has a tendency to put his discharge orders in early in the morning. So if that preferred pharmacy is already updated, and then it avoids some issues with having to transfer the medications and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So we can kind of get all of these ducks in a row early in the admission for the patient. So come discharge day, doc puts in the meds that are to be sent home with the patient. Pharmacy already has the insurance. They already have copay information. The preferred pharmacy is already in. It's just a matter of getting the medications filled and delivered at that point. So just trying to make that whole process more efficient so that way it's not impacting pharmacy having to hustle really quickly to try and put together a fill as fast as they can, and then so it's also for the team, it's not going to be causing who's
Sorry.
sharing something.
No, I got it. That was me,
Um
Keenan. All I needed
so
was the assessment word, man. You took my whole work. But I appreciate it. What I wanted to show them was something. So as Keenan mentioned, the biggest thing was that we were trying to do all of this at discharge, and it just wasn't working out. It worked out initially because it was 1 to 2, 3 discharges. Now we're up to 6 at the time, right? So it didn't quite work out. So we decided to put it in the admission assessment, and the thought is that you will simply talk to the patient about Meds to Bed program. So what is Meds to Bed? It's a free program. I think the biggest thing is to let them know it's free. We don't charge a single penny. It doesn't cost them any more to go with us than it would to go to Walmart, unless they have some pre-done deal, which some insurances do, depending on which one you have. But the thought is that only the new medications that they get discharged with based on this admission. So not whatever they were doing before. A lot of times patients get worried like, oh no, I like to fill with this pharmacy because it took me a long time to set up and it delivers to me because it's a mail pharmacy. Let them know that we're not changing the pharmacy at all. All we're doing is for if they have new medications they've never taken before, based on this admission, we would simply bring those and those only. Most of the time, the doctor is going to write a 1 month supply, which is going to make sure that within that month, the patient has a follow up with their PCP. So all we're doing is really just providing the 1 month supply to them, and essentially saving them the visit to the pharmacy once they're done. So you would ask them about, you would tell them about this process about meds to bed and see if they want to participate. If they, most of the time they're gonna say yeah. Most of the patients do want to do this. So you'll say yeah, and then the first thing you would do is let them know that we'll contact them via the phone in their room. So if they ever hear a ring, it's gonna be the retail pharmacy since they hardly ever use it. They're probably not using it at all. And then you would come back and let them know the only thing that we need would be their insurance. So their pharmacy insurance. They're probably not gonna have it with them. If they do, we can go ahead and scan it. If they don't, then it's fine. Because you're triggering the console to us, we have plenty of time to work out those little kinks. The one thing that I would ask, so that it doesn't fall through the cracks, is to change the preferred pharmacy. So to do that, you would go under the discharge, and this is a test account, of course. We go to the discharge, and you would go to this little hamburger here, and go to preferred pharmacy, and then in this case they're from this town, so we're just gonna say Parker AC, and then you just search, and this is going to be all the retail pharmacies in our area. So you just pick La Paz Regional Pharmacy, which we advertise Parker Pharmacy, but the actual name you're going to see is La Paz Regional Pharmacy. And then you simply okay it and then save and exit. Now, so that this will let me know too if I ever need to know who changed it for whatever reason. It lets you know who changed the preferred pharmacy and the day normally. So essentially talk to the patients about meds to bed. I kind of gave you an explanation of what it is. Ask them if they want to opt in. If they say yeah, you let them know that we'll contact them via that phone as we get closer to discharge, and we're gonna need things like pharmacy insurance and credit card if there's a copay. I don't expect them to have and give it to you right then and then. But just so you know, that's pretty much the workflow that'll be on your assessment. Then you will simply just come here and change the preferred pharmacy, and you call it good. And then we'll do the rest after that. Questions, concerns about Metsabed?
Anybody have any
All
questions
right.
on that process, comments, different suggestions that you might have, things that could be added, modified, concerns about time duration, workload, anything like that?
All right. The other thing I have for you guys is a big announcement
Hold
on
on, Omar.
the.
Hold on, Omar. Tammy, you came off mute. What do you have to say, my dear?
When we switch it over to preferred, sometimes they're like, they have their pharmacy, like you said, the mail order pharmacy. Is there a way of putting a tab that says meds to beds there instead of preferred? That way you have a concrete that, yeah, they want it for this particular situation where they want us to do the meds to beds, but their preferred pharmacy is like, a mail-in or a Walmart or something like that.
Yeah, I hear you. Let me see. I
Because
wonder
then
if
that
there's.
changes their preferred and then, that way we can ask it each time because maybe this time they want meds to bed, but the next time they don't. You know what I mean?
Right, I hear you. Let's see if there's any. I want to see if there's any comment area. Hmm. Hmm. I guess it doesn't, huh? Um. Okay. No, that could be something. I can probably start taking and see if I can put a comment on there. Let's see. Wonder if I just pick CVS for now. Uh, my fares, okay. No, it doesn't give me anything. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I'll definitely look into that. Don't know
I
how
think
much they
that
can help me with that, but yeah.
I think the concern there, Omar, is so with Meditech, right? The
Right.
account's going to follow the patient. right? Their preferred pharmacy information is going to follow them. So once they do discharge, even if they do go and see, say, our primary care provider at the clinic,
Right.
if the preferred pharmacy has been updated to ours, but realistically, like Tammy says, if they do prefer a mail order pharmacy, right? Then if the preferred's been changed to ours, then someone at the clinic would have to remember to modify that. If they get new prescriptions or refills done at the time of their primary care visit, they would have to have that pharmacy updated prior to them
Yeah.
sending those prescriptions. Otherwise, I could see it turning into a snafu situation where, the patient is, leaving their primary care appointment. They're anticipating that their meds are going to be filled via
I
their
hear
mail
you.
order pharmacy. And then here they get a phone call from your team. Hey, your meds are ready. And they go, well, hold on. I'm supposed to get them from, Optum or what have you, through my
Yeah.
mail order pharmacy that I have set up. So definitely good question. Something for
Yeah,
us
no,
to
I hear
look
you.
into. So that way we're not, causing problems down the road come time for, primary care follow-up stuff.
No, I got you. I understood the question, and I'll talk to Cindy about seeing what she can do for us if she thinks that's a
Cool.
possibility. I also meet with the clinics, um, all the clinics in our area once a month, so I can mention that to them. Like, look, if you ever see somebody with a preferred pharmacy, just make sure you're still asking that question of what is the preferred pharmacy because of the Meds to Bed program. In the meantime, until Cindy and Dash possibly a MedTech ticket, it's created to see what they can do for us. But yeah, thanks for that, Tammy. I appreciate that.
What else you got for us, sir?
BDLRs. So as you guys know, we signed a contract with BDLRs to utilize the new IV pumps to essentially get rid of our Baxter ones, which I'm not the biggest fan of. So we just finished the data upload yesterday. They're gonna be here on Tuesday and Wednesday this week coming up to upload the pumps, and then we have training, hospital wide training, um, on the 11th and the 12th of March. So we're probably about a couple weeks out. They're gonna be here for 4 days. Two of them are gonna be nothing but training. I know you're on those emails, Keenan, too. Possibly, I would think possibly seeing what sending out an email or something like that to see if or any of you guys wanna that are not on the schedule wanna come by just to be here for that. For that, either way, we kind of messed with it already. It's very simple. I mean, it seems like a simple pump system in comparison to Baxter. But in the meantime, whenever they come in here and upload the files on Wednesday, I'll make sure that I'll take you guys a few of them in every location so you guys can mess around with before the actual training. Um, yeah, that's what they look like right there. Have any of you used this before?
Yes.
Yes, I've used them in Kingman, Omar.
Yeah, I would think these are probably the gold standard. I would think the best that we have in the field.
So primarily for our team, we'll be using this style of setup. For the Alaris pumps, they'll be looking like these with the channels on the side that you can see here to the left and the right is primarily what ours are going to look like. There are also going to be versions that have this
Syringe.
style as well. Let's see, this guy where they have this kind of syringe. Let's see here. See if I can zoom this photo the right way. So where they have this syringe pump style on the right, we're probably not going to be using this style of syringe pump. If we do, it'll be very seldom that we'll run into this approach with this attachment. This is an all-in-one, this guy that's attached on the right here. So the adjustments for the channel itself are just in this section right here, and then the syringe attaches in to the right of it. Primarily where we'll be seeing these used is in the surgery department with anesthesia and whatnot. But there is a possibility that we see the use of syringe pumps in our department. It's just not going to be very often. For the most part, we'll see that other style of Alaris pump available for us to use. So, and then I'll cover some more information on this. And in a later part of our meeting, I've got some information on the actual training that's coming up and everything. What else you
Nice.
got for us, Mr. Omar?
The last thing I have for you guys is changes to pharmacy hours, and that's happening in April. First week of April, first weekend of April, we'll be going back to 8 to 12 on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday. That's not happening for a couple of months still, but just thought I'll mention it, and I'll continue to mention as we get closer to that date. Essentially, our retail pharmacy is being trained to take over the weekends as our weekend pharmacist is leaving us.
Okay.
And that's
Any-
it for me. Any
Any
questions?
questions for pharmacy?
Hey, you know, Omar, I was thinking back to that meds to bed thing we were talking about.
Mhm.
When we're doing the inpatient screening, is there a way to just word it, like Tammy was saying, like a box that just says, while inpatient, La Paz is preferred? So that whoever
Right.
is doing a screening, say you're at the clinic, they obviously would see that that box had been checked for inpatient preferred rather than just overall.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's what I'm gonna try to mess with
Good idea.
as I talk to Cindy, because this process, as far as the retail pharmacy, is pretty straightforward as far as what we can control because it's coming from doctor first.
Right.
So, but all I need is a comment box, something that can allow me
Right.
to
I'm
be
just thinking what,
transferred over.
right, whatever would be simple to just like it. So if it said while inpatient, that would
Right.
clarify only while they're inpatient. And
Yeah.
then, you know, if somebody forgot to put a comment or whatever, because it's
Yeah.
got to be easy across the board if it's going to be consistent. But just a
Right.
thought for you.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I'll see what I can work out with Cindy. She'll probably be the person to know most about this.
Good ideas. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty, well, if there's nothing else, I'll let you guys to it. Thanks, Keenan, for giving me the time, man. Appreciate that.
Not a problem, brother. Appreciate you jumping on.
Alright, bye, guys.
So we will jump in here. Minimize this. Here we go. Yep. All right, now we're rolling. A couple of these topics are kind of trending topics that I'm covering from the previous meeting that we had, and then I added on some new topics. So kicking off with patient safety reminders. So there's some upcoming changes that we're looking at with the fall risk committee. They're wanting to update our whiteboards overall, get us kind of a larger whiteboard setup. And then instead of it being like a classic whiteboard that you write directly onto, there will be an insert that goes into kind of like almost like not a plexiglass, but like a plexi vinyl kind of setup so that you can write directly onto the vinyl. The goal there is to make it a little bit easier to erase, and then they can adjust the size of those whiteboards. And then plus the inserts will be customizable from one department to the next. So what surgery is tracking in their area versus what we're tracking in med surg versus what we're tracking in ICU versus ED are all kind of different things. There's different goals, there's different sections of kind of a classic communication board that are specified to those different areas. So once we get some more action and movement on that, we'll have an opportunity to put some input on, hey, this is what we would like to see added on a communication board for, say, the ICU versus what we'd like to see for the med surg department. Obviously, your basics like the patient name, the provider, the nurse, day of the week, all of that kind of content will still kind of be consistent across these. But the actual content that is covered on the board being more specified to the actual area instead of just having one standardized whiteboard. And then again, that goal is by having that insert that can be added in. The kind of the purpose and function there is to make it, oh, come on, to make it easier. Come on, please. Here we go. To make it easier for you guys to be able to have it specified to your area. And then another thing that they're looking at doing as well is updating signage. And this is kind of a hospital-wide project. So if you guys have probably noticed, like the easiest example is the signs that we have designating the room number on the exterior of the room. They look ancient. They're definitely not up to the standard of what I've seen in other hospitals. So they're looking at some options to replace that door signage amongst other signage in the department as well, update it, and then provide us with a little bit more usage out of that actual room signage. So they're looking at a couple of different options. There's ones that are out there that have the little tabs that kind of pull out on either side that indicate, NPO, DNR, stuff of that nature. They have all kinds of different versions of those. And then they're looking at options where there's a place that you can insert. So when we have patients that are on precautions, so currently when we have precaution patients, we're just like taping the actual notice on the door. This would permit us to take that precaution sign and slip it into that holder, making it easier to swap those out. There are even some that you can keep those precaution signs in the actual holder. So every room would have all of the precautions available inside the holder, and then it would just need to be updated depending on which precaution the patient has. So we wouldn't have to keep the big box of precaution signs at the nurse's station. We wouldn't have to have someone remember to run down to the nurse's station. Just once that precaution order gets updated, it's as simple as walking up to that actual placard that's exterior to the room and then either adjusting the tabs or changing out the actual precaution sign that should be contained within there. So we're looking at some options on that to replace those. We do have Steve's ear on this, which is a good thing. It means that we have the support that we need in order to get these updated. So for those of you that are disgusted with the signs that we currently have, like I am, we should be seeing some of those come around and be updated. My understanding is that they want to time that update on the signage with when they paint. So they apparently they are planning on updating paint. So I'm anticipating this will be like a summertime project that we're looking at that'll be taking place. So we'll take the old signage off. They'll have an opportunity to go through and paint everything. And then at that point, we would update that signage with the new signage that we would be purchasing. So it'll have the room number on there. It'll have, potentially, again, they're looking at different options, tabs that can be pulled out to indicate, different things like fall risk or NPO or stuff of that nature. And then also having some kind of an insert to be able to slip in, enteric precautions or, neutropenic precautions, that kind of thing. So some updates coming around. Kind of the reason it's coming out of the Falls Committee for that stuff is Falls Committee is looking for any and all different opportunities, whether it be everything from simple things like putting yellow socks on a patient, all the way up to signage that's kept in the room, over to updating bed and chair alarms, things of that nature is what these guys are looking at to help, make sure we're using the most updated equipment to reduce falls for patients. So those are some cool things that are on the horizon when it comes to falls. Let's see. We do have the GUS available for evaluating patients' abilities to swallow. That's something that our physicians are able to add an order for us to complete. And then my understanding is that the actual scoring tool and is attached within the program. I will double check to confirm that that is in fact the case. Beyond that, as Omar indicated, we have the new Alaris pumps that are right around the corner. The training will be starting the second week of March. I don't have the training schedule on here because there were some updates being made as of yesterday. But what I can say is that the training sessions are going to be offered to cover the full duration of the day. starting as early as 7 o'clock in the morning. And the reason for that is so that we can capture night shift after they're coming off of shift. And then we also have classes that are going as late as starting as at like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., so that staff that are coming into shift, they can come in an hour earlier for their night shift to be able to capture that training time. And then there's 2 days of training that is going to be offered. And then following the 2 days of training, they will start the rollout. Accompanied with the rollout, they will have staff on site from BD that will be here during the MedPass windows on day shift and night shift for the first 2 days of rolling out these new IV pumps. So that way they can be on hand and available to answer questions as needed for staff, whether they were able to make the training or not. And then in addition, I'm going to have a video that is going to be rolling out. I believe I have a copy. If I do, I'll get that sent out to you guys today with a link so you can access. I have not gone through the video yet to see how long it is, but it's a basic training video that will walk you through the fundamental usage of a BD Alaris pump. Just that way you kind of have some precursor education going into the formal training, and then we'll have that companion follow through on the days of the rollout. So one clarification that I do want to make, unfortunately, the smart pump aspect of this is not going to be rolled out immediately. It is something that they're going to roll out a little bit later on. This is actually an initiative from BD. I was on with the trainer individual and I said, hey, do we need to be gearing up, and do I need to have sample wristbands and sample medication packs so that people can kind of go through the actual scanning function to see how that works, and then test accounts so they can see how it updates their stop times, see how it updates their INO. The guy said, no, we're not going to be doing that to begin with. He said that historically at every single facility that they have rolled out new BD smart pumps, they roll out the pumps first. They give the staff an opportunity to become familiarized with the usage of the pump itself. And then later on down the road, within 3 to 6 months, they partner with whoever the EHR's staff are in order to initiate those portions into the actual EHR system and give us the smart functionality for the pumps. So we'll be getting the pumps first. We'll have the opportunity to use them, get used to them, and then in 3 to 6 months, we'll be seeing the initiative to start rolling out the smart pump functionality with those pumps. So it's just going to be coming a little bit later. Any questions for anybody on smart pump or on the new Alaris pump training, on the new Alaris pumps, that kind of stuff?
Does it require different tubing?
It will. So we are going to be switching our tubing over from what we're currently using for the Baxters to what the standardized is for the Alaris. Now, the actual function of the tubing in comparison between the two is expectantly the same, right? We're anticipating the same flow rates. We're anticipating the same lengths. We're anticipating the same amount of ports for people to access, whether before or after the pump. We're anticipating the volume that's contained within the tubing to be the same. The kicker is the section that you actually load into the pump is different, and it is a special section on the line itself. So it starts out with kind of your standard tubing, and then when it gets to the kind of the key and lock and pump section, it'll actually look different, feel different than the rest of the tubing. And then it has a locking mechanism that's at the top and at the bottom of it that locks it into place within the pump. So, and you guys will have a chance to see and manipulate that tubing to understand a little bit more about how that's going to impact the changes that you'll see with the new tubing. So it's a little bit of a different approach, but again, part of the reasoning behind that, if I was a BD sales person, they make proprietary tubing that specifically goes with their Lars pumps, right? So which help increase, again, their sales on the product. So whoever designed the thing was, brilliant enough to, make it proprietary in that nature. So yes, we will see some modifications to the actual tubing that we'll be using. And then there will be a full transition on the tubing that we're purchasing to roll out over to the Alaris format versus the Baxter format. Naturally, that is also going to mean that we'll be working closely with our supply department to make sure that when we go through that transition, that we're able to 86 all of the old tubing. As the old pumps are phased out, we're able to 86 the old tubing so that we were not running into, old tubing being stocked in any of these areas or squirreled away anywhere for somebody to accidentally use the wrong stuff. So. Does that help answer your question, Tam?
Yep.
Cool. This section, we're getting into, we covered this last time in December as well with emergency response. This is just a reminder, use your staff assist and code blue buttons in the room if you have a patient that is starting to move in the wrong direction. The earlier that you activate that staff assist button, which is going to get you the rapid response activation, the better. You will never get in trouble for calling a rapid response that is not needed on a patient. In fact, I would prefer to be running into the situation where we are getting around together in a meeting and saying, hey, we had 7 unnecessary rapid response activations this month, instead of getting around in a meeting and saying we had 7 rapid responses that, should have been activated and weren't. I would much rather be on the, hey, we had 7 where, all the staff showed up and the person just needed to fart, or something like that, right, is what I would prefer to see happening. So when you are noticing those kind of critical changes in a patient, and this goes for any member of the team, it could be RT, it could be one of our techs, it could be the nurse, the physician, it could be PT, it could be OT, doesn't matter who it is. They walk into that room, they see a significant change in the patient that appears to be an urgent situation, or even if they're not sure, they can activate that staff assist button, get a rapid response spun up. We'll get there to the room as fast as we possibly can, which most of the time, pretty much 100% of the time, the response is kind of right on cue. And then the stand down, if it needs to take place, will take place once it's identified that the patient's, back to kind of normal function. Only thing I kind of wanted to tack on to this emergency response section, ED has been getting slammed specifically on day shift these last couple of months. When they call the code blues, our team consistently responds on days and night shift. But what I want to see happening as well, and this is for the charge nurses specifically, and I didn't bring this up in our charge meeting this last week because it wasn't a topic of concern yet. Michelle just brought this up to me recently. But when they call those code strongs overhead, if we can have at least one person, whether it is the charge nurse, one of our techs, one of our nurses that's on the list to go down to the ED in the event of a code or a code strong, if we can have that person pop down there, it only takes a few moments to walk down to that lobby, at a minimum to check and make sure that someone's already addressing the situation and getting things going and moving in the right direction. Then we can get things spun up and moving for them. If you get down there and if you get waved off because you're not needed, then not a big deal. But if you are needed, right, then we want to be able to help get that patient out of the vehicle, what have you. We want to make sure that we have them squared away. So questions on code blues in the ED, code strongs in the ED. Next thing I wanted to jump into is incident reports. So this was brought up during the quality council meeting yesterday with Denise. We got to make sure when we have falls, if we have patients in restraints, if we have any violent episodes or, you know, off the cuff episodes with patients. Anytime there is anything worthy of getting written up in an incident report, we got to make sure that we get these entered into the system. Even if it is a quick, simple comment to outlay what happened, right? The majority of incident reports that I've been seeing lately have to do with pharmacy entering things for medications. I have seen a couple related to falls that we have had in the department. So that is a good thing. We need those. Our quality department needs those. She uses them for tracking purposes, but especially when we have you know, strange people walking around on the grounds in the middle of the night or trying to enter through a door that they don't belong in, acting strange. You know, if there's violent situations with patients on the floor, you know, get that incident report in. If it's even if it's mild and the situation is resolved and you're just entering it in order for tracking purposes, that's fine. We just have to make sure that we're consistently using those incident reports when they're needed. So if you're a person that is unfamiliar with incident reports and how to get them entered into the system, please, I would be happy to sit down and show you the steps to get in there to get things entered. It's fairly easy to use. Yes, there's a lot of options to pick from when you're starting the incident report, but once you get in there, it straight up asks you for the content that you need to enter in relation to that incident report. Questions on incident reports, entering incident reports? So during the last charge meeting that I had, I discussed with the charges, looking at some opportunities to make some modifications to how we do our documentation in Meditech. And really, more than anything, what I'm kind of coining the term for as what's called computer burden. I just kind of came up with that on my own. And that effectively means the amount of time that it is taking any one individual to get through all of the documentation that they have for a patient. There's some different avenues of approach that we're looking at to try and shore this up for you guys. So there's not as much busy work on there for you to complete. Now, there are certain things that we do have to enter, right? So we have to enter vital signs. We have to enter INO for patients. We have to enter our daily weight on their orders when they're ordered. We have to do our daily shift assessment. There's certain screening questions that we have to do, right, with Braden's, our fall scores and things of that nature, right? But the actual appearance and function of the work list itself is kind of where I'm seeing the opportunity for us to do the most shoring up. And one of those options has to do with your Q1 hourly rounds that you do on patients. I've done some research on this, and Q1 hourly rounds really became the standard around the early 2000s when EHRs were first rolling out, and a lot has had to do with hospitals going to their legal departments and saying, hey, how do we design our charting system to best legally protect us? And of course, any lawyer is going to tell you to over document to the extreme, and to ensure that, you know, every little thing possible is documented and put into the charting system itself. Unfortunately, lawyers and nurses aren't the same thing. They don't do the same job. They don't take care of patients, right? They may understand the easiest ways to get things set up to prevent problems, but unfortunately, some of the side consequences of that is over documentation, meaning double charting, triple charting, charting things in more than one place, right? Things of that nature when you've already got the information down that you need. And one of these areas is the Q1H, the Q1 hourly documentation that is currently populating onto everybody's work lists. So per CMS and ACHC guidelines, really the only time that a nurse has to document anything in regards to what we typically see on our Q1H charting is at end of shift or at any point in time in which there's a change in the patient. So I'm putting together, we kind of did a soft rollout on Wednesday. was it Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday when I was covering charge, I printed out some content, gave it to the nursing staff. Tristan was there, for example, and gave them the opportunity to do an end of shift summary to cover all of their Q1 hourly charting instead of doing the Q1 hourlies. So I'm looking at some different options to kind of clean this up and shore it up a little bit. There is some standardized content that has to be included in that end of shift summary that is charted. And then just because we, may opt to eliminate the Q1 hourly also doesn't do two things. One, it doesn't excuse you from checking on the patient on an hourly basis. And two, it also doesn't excuse you from documenting in real time when things do happen in regards to the patient, right? The majority of this Q1 documentation really has to do with the ADL documentation that we're doing for the patient, right? So when we're toileting, when we're ambulating, when we're turning them, when we're changing them, when they're showering, right? Things of that nature is the content that is included in here with the Q1 hourly charting that we see. So there'll be some changes that'll be coming down the pike. So far, it seems to have been well received. And then if you're one of my stickler folks that wants to see the actual research, I'm happy to get that to you so you can see what is exactly expected from CMS and ACHC. And then again, like I said, just because we move forward with making this modification, it's not going to prevent a nurse or anyone that really, really enjoys doing Q1 hourly documentation and wants to continue doing that. You'll still have the ability to do so. It's just not going to be overloading your work list with content. And that's kind of the key. Trying to shore up our work list so that there's not so much extraneous content that's kept on there, which I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm one of those people that I have to have everything clicked. I have to have everything done, right? And if I have outstanding clocks, it puts my head into a tailspin. So I know that we have other folks on the team that are like that, and if there is a way that I can reduce some of that burden, and the goal here is to get you guys spending less time on the computer because your documentation is actually more efficient and more time in the room with the patient, right? So minimizing the computer burden that you have so that you can get charted what you need to get charted, but so that it takes you less time and it ties you down to that computer for less amount of time. So trying to sort out some different strategies, and the Q1 hourly documentation is one of those to kind of shore this up for you guys and make it easier to spend more quality time with your patients doing education, ambulation, things of that nature by basically giving you some more downtime, right? To be able to do those things. So questions on modifications to the work lists. There's some content I didn't cover, which has to do with making PT, OT, and respiratory and even case management stuff hideable. So I'll be working on that as well. So whenever we have a respiratory patient in-house, I know you guys probably noticed that they'll have like 8 items for RT, and those are all clogged up on your work list. They all have time clocks, and it's not anything that you guys have to chart on, So being able to make modifications in the system. So I anticipate that work lists will be maybe like 14 tops, 14 items max. Right now, most work lists for most patients are 20 plus items on that work list. And then in addition to that, I'll also be looking at making some changes to care plans as well to accomplish 2 things. One, to make them easier to use, and 2, to make them function like actual care plans and not something that just adds, 10 things to your work list that you're already doing, to actually make it a functional plan of care, not a work list item generator. So here we just have a couple of quick things I'll go over. End of shift expectations. My day folks, when we're getting towards the end of the night, trash cans emptied, rooms are cleaned and presentable. If the patient's ready to get in bed, they're in bed. So when night shift gets here, that patient's already tucked in, ready to go into the evening. Waters are refilled, things of that nature. Vital signs machines have been plugged in. For my day shift folks, that's patients up out of bed in the morning, ready to go to have breakfast in the morning at their chair. Rooms are cleaned, waters are refilled, trash cans are emptied. Vital signs are, machines are plugged in to maintain charge. And daily weights are obtained going into the day shift. This just has to do with a basic flow going from nights to days and days to nights to set the next team up for the best success possible. And it also sets the patients up for the best success possible as well. If those patients can get out of bed, eat breakfast in the morning, my expectation is that they are out of bed to eat breakfast in the morning, right? We want them to be set up, ready to go going into the day. We want them in bed, ready to go down going into the night. So we have the ability to do this. The shifts that I have been here and worked with as many as 18 patients on, right? This is capable. Our team is capable of making this happen. So let's make it into a reality, right? For my charge nurses, that means checking in with your techs around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and ensuring that they're executing on these functions, right? I know dinner time's at 5, so getting somebody into bed before dinner doesn't make sense, right? But after dinner, getting as many patients as we possibly can wound down and back in their beds, right, is the ideal. And for our night shift, that's getting our patients wound up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting them ready out of bed in a chair, set up with their toothbrush equipment, so they can brush their teeth in the morning. This is just good stewardship between shifts, and it's good stewardship for the patients, right? And it is doable. I can see the realistic opportunity that we have on the shifts that I've covered, that this is possible for the staff to pull off. It is not impossible. Don't try and convince me, because I have seen the work. I have seen that you guys are capable of doing this, right? So let's make it happen. Let's make it a reality. We've been doing good on our work orders for our equipment, so keep it up. When you run across something that's not working, get it isolated, get it pulled. If it's a bed, get it pulled out of the room. We got to get them tagged. That way, when the tech comes in to work on any broken beds, then they've already been pulled. Probably the easiest thing we can do is when we have a broken or dysfunctional bed, if it's towards the end of the day, we get it pulled, we can get it down that hallway, and then our next day shift during normal, plan op hours, we can call them and they can take that bed back to the trailer that they have back there, get it off the floor, right? Get the broken ones out of here, and then also get them sequestered to one location away from the unit so they don't get accidentally put back into circulation. And then if there's fixed ones back there in that trailer, they can bring those out for us. So that way we kind of have this nice flow of functional beds replaced with broken equipment. And then it makes it easier for when that tech does come out. We can just say, hey, there's not any rooms that you have to go to. You just go back to this trailer with the plan ops team. They can pull out the beds that you need to work on. So that way they kind of keeps that isolated and away from the department. See. Still tracking attendance closely. And that includes with our charge nurses. I did some work on the attendance link on Wednesday. I think I have identified the problem. I'm still trying to work on fixing it, and I'm working on an alternative location to keep that link so that the charge nurses can get into the attendance tracker. I don't know why, for what reason it wasn't working on our Teams platform, but I'm like on the cusp of a solution here. So I will have some updates for the team leads that are on here for being able to access that attendance tracker. Probably before our team lead meeting next Thursday, I'll have it fixed. So you had a question, Tammy?
Yeah, it goes back to just like picking up around the unit. So everybody there is an adult. Please pick up after yourselves, including the break room. It has been awful. The department has just looked not very clean. And if you take something out, if you put together a little baggie to put on your computer, put it away. Let's just pick up after ourselves instead of leaving it out for someone else to do.
Yeah, again, it just comes back to good stewardship, right? You know, you're setting the next team that's coming up on shift up for success, right? And so again, some of my goal with reducing some of this computer burden is that come, 4 or 5 o'clock, and that's days and nights. My intention with reducing the computer burden is coming, into that kind of hour of the day. You're in your last 2 to 3 hours of the shift, that ideally you've been able to get all of the charting that you do need to get done and have it done by that time, which ideally will free up kind of that last 2 hour segment of your shift to go through and do last minute checks on, hey, do I need to clean up my wow? Did I leave anything behind, at the nurse's station that I need to pick up and get rid of? Can I go back in, I'll go back into my rooms and I'll go and check and see, is the trash emptied? Are things cleaned up around the sink? Is the patient back in bed? Things of that nature. So by reducing some of that computer burden, freeing up your guys' ability to, in that last 2 hours of your shift, there's typically not a lot of med pass that's having to go on around that time, right? So if your documentation's done, if your med pass is done, if your wound care is done, by that time of the day, that frees up that last 2 hours that you can get things tucked in and squared away for those patients going into the evening shift or going into the morning shift. So that way, when you do that handoff, right, you can genuinely say, I've got all the stop times in for the meds that I've started. I have the documentation updated. We're all caught up. I've gone through the room. It's spick and span. Trash is emptied, the linen bag's emptied, the room looks good. Patient's either tucked into bed or out of bed in chair. You're just setting that next person up for success, right? And by doing that, right, you're starting to breed a sense of trust and dependability with your counterparts on the opposite shift, right? To where now your report time is taking significant less time, and you can walk out of the building knowing in good confidence in your heart and your soul that you have set the next shift up for success, right? And maybe the only things left kind of kicking around in your head are, how the patient that you handed off is going to do throughout the rest of the day. Because I know we think about those things, um, and not so much, oh my God, I got my ass kicked all day and I never had a chance to really get caught up. And I can't believe I left such a mess, you know. Um, I want you guys to have that sensation and feeling that on your drive home after you leave this place, it's not just a relief of, hey, I was able to get out of there, but I was able to get out of there proud of what I was able to accomplish. And not just with the care that I provided to the patient, but the overall picture of everything that I was able to perform. I can be truly proud of the work that I did, and I know that what I handed off to that next shift was rock solid, right? There is nothing that could happen with the patients that I handed off on my team that could capsize this thing unless something medically goes wrong with them throughout the course of that shift. That's the only thing that, if there is anything that should be on your mind, is how your patient's going to be doing, and that should be it. And then when you go home and you drink your 6 beers and fall asleep, then that goes away too. Um, We're still doing Paycom through me. We're still doing education hours and callback through me. So anytime you have anything time card related, just make sure you're sending those emails to me. Most of the staff have gotten really consistent and good at this. When they do education hours or, health stream, or, there's a problem on their time card or what have you, they're getting a hold of me early enough. I can get in, I can make the changes before it becomes payroll day. The earlier that you let me know, the earlier I can get it fixed. If I don't know, then I'm going to push your time card through. And if something's messed up, It might get fixed before you get your paycheck. It might not, right? So, and if it doesn't, then that means you got to wait until the next paycheck before that money comes your direction. So I need y'all to stay on top of it. If you let me know, I will get it fixed before the time gets posted, but I'm not going to jump through my ass to try and figure out, oh, did such and such a person do education hours on a given day, right? That's I'm not going to saddle my responsibility with what you have or haven't done. I'm not going to saddle my responsibility with have you or haven't you entered your standby hours, right? I'm not going to be looking to capture that stuff. So if you're on standby, if you do education hours, if you missed a punch, if there's PTO that you needed to get entered, if there, is some other kind of issue going on with your time card, I need you to be the one to initiate that and let me know what it is so I can get started on working on it. And if you wait until the Wednesday after payroll Monday, I'm probably not going to be able to get it fixed. So stay on top of it. If you stay on top of it, everything will be kosher. If you don't, you won't see those modifications until your next paycheck. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I'm not, there's 50 people that I have to sign off on time cards for. I do not have time to go through every single person's schedule and confirm, were they on standby? Were they not? Do they need to enter PTO? Do they not? Right? This is on your shoulders to make sure what you need gets entered. So, and if there's an issue or you're having problems with Paycom, it's your responsibility to connect with me via email so I don't forget. That's why. That's the kicker there. Got to email it to me so I don't forget about it. If you see me in the hallway or you text me, I might forget. If you email it to me, I guarantee you I will not forget to make the modification. Talked about that already. And then the last item, we do have a handful of new hires, both new grads and some ICU staff that will be joining our team over the next couple of months. So with us going into the summer season coming around the corner, our current schedule goes until 4/7, like the first week of April. April is where we see our cliff. Somewhere in April, our cliff will come into full view. Uh, Typically around the second or third week of April is where we see that happen. The cliff meaning where we go from our average daily census of about 14 to 16 to our average daily census of around 6 to 10 patients is when that cliff starts to come into full view, is mid-April. So we're going to be working on a stand down with our contract labor staff, especially with the new hires that are joining in the organization, as well as our new grads that are coming off of orientation, joining into full-time positions on the team. So we'll see some kind of modifications with the contract labor that we're currently seeing on the schedule. And awesome news, we've had 3 full-time ICU nurses join on the team within the last month. I have conducted interviews, solid candidates, strong background experience. Several of them have 5+ years background experience working in ICU setting. So we're slowly but surely chunking away at getting contract labor out of our ICU full-time positions and replacing those with actual full-time ICU staff. We're getting closer. Some things to look forward to going into summer, right? I start talking about that stuff. Everybody starts getting worried about their hours. Do not get too concerned. We have some awesome opportunities coming up. It has been confirmed that both Havasu and Yuma have upskilling available for us to do come summertime. So that is ICU and med-surg opportunities in other hospitals for folks to go work in busier units with more patients on per shift with typically more acute levels of care to provide some kind of real hands-on in the hospital experience with the upskilling program. And then we also have the sim lab from ASU. Once this new building gets completed, which unfortunately there was a recent pushback on that due to some ADA compliance things. But once that all gets dialed in, they will be working on getting the sim lab from ASU installed on campus and then have an individual that'll be working in there My dream may actually come into reality starting this year, and that's being able to put a training cadre together. So taking people off the schedule for a week at a time to send them over and go through comprehensive didactic and hands-on simulation experience activities involving codes, rapid responses, and doing all kinds of anything and everything we can do with that dummy, we're going to do. And we're going to run people through the hardest situations that you can possibly imagine. So that way, when you do see it, come time that you do see it on the floor, it'll be the first time potentially that you've seen it on a real life person, but it won't necessarily be the first time that you've run through the steps on what to do. The goal being there to reduce the anxiety, right, surrounding those types of situations and create a more calm environment when bad things do happen. That's really the key. When bad stuff happens, we need people to stay calm, not just know what to do, but also to keep their wits about them, right? And then also because you have, seen or done it through the simulation environment, it won't be the first time that you're pulling that medication or using it to where you're having to go, oh my God, what is this for? And look it up on the drug guide, right? In a crucial moment, it'll ideally be something that you've already encountered once before. So some cool stuff that's coming available for us this summer that again it'll give us some opportunities to also shore up some hours for our full-time folks when we do have low census. So as those things come to fruition, the upskilling's confirmed. We have that locked down solid. That will be available for us going through the end of June. And then the simulation lab, what exactly is going to be involved to get that spun up, I'm not sure yet. Obviously, it's going to involve an install first. And then second, it's going to require someone to train and understand the operation of the actual simulation dummy as well. Not to mention putting together actual didactic coursework as well as scenarios, right, that we can run through in the sim lab. So it's going to take a bit of work in order to get that off the ground, but my goal is that if when that simulation lab gets installed, that we're going to be hard charging getting it up and off the ground so we can try to use it before this summer is over. Work out some of the kinks, get that process well underway so that way come summer 2027, we'll really be in good position to be able to utilize that as one of our training environments as well. So some cool shit coming down the pike that'll be available for training for you guys during the summertime and also help shore up some hours. There's some other cool stuff on the horizon too. We're going to see some increase in the amount of interventional radiology cases coming around the corner, as well as nuke med cases. And the infection prevention department is finding it challenging, cardiac rehab, I guess technically is what that falls under, finding it challenging to provide their staff member for those functions. So there's going to be some opportunities as well for extra hours for folks that are trained in moderate sedation. Moderate sedation training is being added to health streams, so please look out for it. Once you see it, get it completed, and then it's just a matter of getting you signed off on moderate sedation. Once you've got that knocked out, you'll have extra shifts available to pick from over in interventional radiology and over in nuke med that you can come in, get some extra hours, and do a job that's a little bit different. That'll be made available for you guys as well. So keep an eye on your health streams. When you see that training come through, make sure you jump on it and get it knocked out so we can start moving towards getting signed off. You just have to do two moderate sedation patients to get signed off on. Once you're signed off, you're eligible to pick up for those extra shifts over in interventional radiology or nuke med. Specifically, interventional radiology is the big one. Nuke med's mostly starting IVs. Interventional radiology actually involves sedating the patient and then recovering them afterwards. So please be on the lookout for those opportunities. Open to the floor. All right. If nobody has anything, then enjoy your weekend. And I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Kanan.